Hi and welcome to everyone joining us for this preview. It will be for the meeting at the Vaal. Racing takes place at the Vaal. An early start, 12 noon. The first race is over 1,200 meters. Before we get into a very tricky card, let's welcome Alistair Cohen on the line. Firstly, Alistair, how are you doing? And then secondly, when you look at the card, it looks to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it's a minefield. There are a lot of treasures on this card. Hopefully, Sheldon, it's one of the trickier Vaal cards I've seen in a very, very long time. How I'm doing very well, thanks. Cannot wait for Saturday. Daily News 2000, one of my favorite meetings of the year. So looking forward to being down in KZN. And it's the last roll of the dice. If any doubters of 3-year-olds are out there, this could be the last opportunity for 3-year-olds to swing the mine heading into the Hollywoodbets Durbanville July. But I'll tell you what, if you can finish this Vaal card in the profit, that pick 6 carryover on Saturday at Hollywoodbets Greyville will become very, very appealing. You'll have lots of spending money and some to spare as well.
100% right. We've read the card the same way, and I'm sure most of the punters out there, they'll be in full agreement. When you look at the card, you're going to have to be very, very lucky on the day. And looking really forward to the weekend's racing, as you mentioned, some quality on offer. But let's get straight on to the first race over 1,200 meters. Now, when you look at the first race, a lot of unraced entries. So obviously the form horse could be number 3 from the Claassen stable. But when there's so many unraced horses, it's very hard to get a gauge.
Very hard indeed, and there's some interesting unraced horses here, Sheldon. This was Lady Fallon, number 8 on the card. Had been carded to run a couple of weeks ago, and she got scratched. But there was money for her before she got scratched. So that's in the back of my mind. I do think that this race is a bit stronger than the race that she was carded to run in. But with that said, there was some interest about her the first time she was carded. 6 Lady Chatterley is very well bred. She is a half-sister to that horse of Dennis Dryer's Let Me Love You. Oh, no, that's the mother's name. The one that beat Captain's Ransom in the Prix de Cup, whose name just escapes me at the moment, in the Biffhoff colours. So Lady Chatterley is well related. Number 11, My Best Friend, I believe, is showing nice work as well, but not fully wound up first time out. But watch out for her sort of running on into the minor money. Best race runner, clearly number 3, Dolcezza. A little bit of a worry that this horse, Wagug, who is running the same 2 races, has regressed rather than progressed. So that is a little bit of a worry for number 3, Dolcezza, but I do think she's the one they all need to beat. Of the race runners, funny enough, this horse, number 14, Sigrid Swing, has got 2 useful runs to her name behind Elegant Ice, who followed up with second in a feature race, and Queen of Camelot, who ran second on Tuesday at Turfentine behind a very progressive horse in the form of White Rose. So I think number 14, Sigrid Swing, is the quartet springer in the race.
Let's move on to race number 2, being a 9-race program. This will start the bipod. So race number 2, also with unraced entries. Just having a look at the anti-post betting, as this show is pre-recorded. Number 6, Hawkbill, is the current 18-10 favorite. Captain Warren, number 2, is around 33-10, and you can go out 6-1 and better the rest of them. I think at the early time of recording, number 16, Thing Called Love, is an early scratching. So let's get on to number 6, Hawkbill. Son of Elusive Fort, and you were talking about the Lucky Hudalakas runner in the first race. Now here's a horse who came 3rd on debut behind Guy Gibson. The form line was franked, and then went 2nd to Jerusalem Rain last time out. Just seemed to be doing the best work late on, and this is a horse who could certainly get into the winner's enclosure, bearing in mind that there are unraced horses who could be anything in the making.
Yeah, in contrast to race 1, Sheldon, I'm not convinced the first time is going to pop up here. Maybe number 12, Storm Ahead, could be forward enough on breeding to do a bit of damage. But I'd certainly look more at the first timers in race 1 than in race 2. I think this race revolves around 2 horses, especially with the scratching of number 16, Thing Called Love. Top choice is number 2, Captain Warra, funny enough, because I've spoken to Lucky Hudalakas about Hawkbill, and he said the horse shows absolutely nothing at home, and he's trying for further. So he's back at the Vaal. It's obviously home ground advantage for number 6, Hawkbill, and there's no reason to sort of veer off what looks like something that's very close to a winning formula. But I think the former number 2, Captain Warra, the last run he should have won. There's no doubt about it. But prior to that 8 3/4 lengths behind Gimme Another Chance, not look too pretty on paper. But Gimme Another Chance is one of the more impressive 2-year-olds that I've seen in Joburg when he stepped up to that type of trip. So I think number 2, Captain Warra, is probably the horse that they all need to beat over number 6, Hawkbull. I think that they're the two to fight this one out, Sheldon.
Excellent. And then just out of interest, there has been some early support in race 2 for a horse called Mount Pilatus. Let's just have a look. Number 11, Mount Pilatus from the Paul Matchett stable, 33 to 1 down 16 to 1. So just keep a close eye on this individual. That'll take us on to race number 3 over 1,400 meters. And when we get on to race number 3, the betting's going to tell us that number 9, Total Surrender, is trading at around 2 to 1 with number 10, Turbo Power. So between numbers 9 and 10, they seem to have the betting exchanges at their mercy at 7 to 1, barring the rest of them. Scratched is number 1, Viva de Janeiro. Which of the two would be your first pick, or are you looking beyond these two?
Funny enough, I'm looking beyond them here, Sheldon. I think number 5, American Grayson, has got a lot of scope to improve. I called his debut. That horse, Free Movements, that very costly bookmaker's friend, Free Movement, ran second to Scallywag. But after calling American Grayson, I'm of the opinion that he's got something about him. I'm not for one moment saying he's going to go through the division's end-up rates at 120 and be a runner in the Summer Cup at the end of the year. But I think that he's going to come on a lot with that first run under the belt, where not much went right from around the turn. He was just very, very green around the bend. And I thought that he stayed on fairly well. So I think that he bears watching. I think he's the value of the race. Of these two horses that have run second on debut, I'd be on the side of number 10, Turbo Power. I think this horse, Capsaicin, is held in high regard by the Aussies. And Turbo Power was doing his best work late a week ago, whereas Total Surrender, even though he is a half-brother to second base, he found a particularly weak race to start off behind Severard, who went off at 100 to 1 on that occasion. So of those two, number 10, Turbo Power, for me, the biggest danger to number 5, American Grace. And I do wish number 1, Viva de Janeiro, was running, because I liked his chances quite strongly.
Let's move on to race number 4 over 1,400 meters. And when you step into the ring, it'll be due off at 13.40 when you need to get your bets on. Let's just take a quick look at the current betting. Number 5, Count Your Chances, is 5 to 2. Number 14, Sweet Basil, the first timer from the Stuart Pettigrew stable, is priced up at 3 to 1. And then you have Green Bubbles and Inevitable that are around about 9 to 2 and 5 to 1. Race number 4, let's kick off with number 2, Inevitable. Looking at this individual, the daughter of Pomodora, 2 of her 3 runs, she's had valid excuses.
Yeah, she patently needed her last run coming back from over a year off the track. I actually quietly fancied her to run a bit better last time, but she just did nothing. I know that she stumbled at the start, and that put pay to her getting into the race, and she obviously showed signs of needing it. I think that she's probably a run or two away from winning number 2, Inevitable, but she's certainly going to be one on the radar for the not-so-distant future. This is a very, very tricky race. If number 14, Sweet Basil, is half as good as her full sister, Pomander, who ran second in the Volker-Boskrift Oaks, when was that, 3 years ago, then she will win. I haven't heard anything about number 14, Sweet Basil, and as we know, it wouldn't be Pettigrew style to wind them up first time out, but she doesn't need to be very good to win. And it's very, very hard to make your debut over 1,400 meters down the straight as well at the Vaal. That is asking a lot. So if she comes out on top, then you can follow her with a bit of confidence throughout her career. I'm going to go with number 4, United We Stand, from the Paul Matchett stable. Piers Stradham, interestingly, takes the ride. Not often that Stradham and Matchett team up. The penultimate starts on the 20th of April, when coming back from a layoff, finished 2.5 lengths behind Just Right. Just in front of United We Stand was a horse called William Iron Arm, who won a Hot Maiden about 9 days earlier. So I think that form stands out head and shoulders above the others. Count Your Chances had her chances, but she's got a chance. 1, Green Bubbles, also has had her chances, but she'll have some sort of claims despite a layoff. But the more I actually look at this race, bar the first time, I think number 4, United We Stand, is the horse they all need to beat. And for the record, this is a half-sister to Quasi for sure.
There we go. So we'll just double check that. Race 4, number 4. We'll take a close look at the scratchings when it comes closer to race time. Scrolling through this morning, so we'll just see. She's not quite in the betting at this stage. So phone's gone on freeze at the moment, with technology at the moment. So we a little bit in the dark, but we'll move straight on to race number 5. And unfortunately, I got no betting now. My device has gone on strike. So race number 5 over 2,000 meters. Alistair, I'm going to throw the ball straight into your court, and I'm going to try to get my devices back online.
Yeah, look at that. United We Stand is scratched in race number 4. So there's a blow. When I took down the scratchings, I got Viva de Janeiro, I got Thing Called Love, and didn't take out United We Stand. That is most annoying. All right, so just going back to that, of the race runners, 1 and 5, the horses to beat, but there's got to be a bit of confidence about number 14, Sweet Basil now. Race 5, there's a jackpot carryover on this card with an estimated pool of 750,000. You don't get that too often on the Thursday at the Vaal. And I think we opened with a banker here, Sheldon. Number 1, Sword of Mercy, because he ran second to Quantifier last time out. And behind Quantifier was Wonderworld, and Wonderworld subsequently won, beating Williamson, Desert Fox, and Every Cloud, and also Volta Fuss. So I think number 1, Sword of Mercy, is going to take all the beating. I'm going to keep this race short and sweet on a very competitive card. He's a banker in all the exotics.
Quite simply put there. So race 5, number 1, Sword of Mercy, for those guys out there who don't want to spend 6-7 hours studying the entire card. Banker number 1, Sword of Mercy, and then throw in all your lucky numbers in the balance of the races. Let's move on to race number 6, which is over 1,200 meters, and the devices are now starting to come back up and running, and the betting has it 5-1 the field. Number 4, Captain Dizzy at 5-1. Number 8, Pontiac is at around 6-1, and then we go out to 7-1 and better the field. Let's start with number 1, Super Agra from the Corey Lensley stable with Muzieni aboard. How well's Muzi doing at the moment? He had a terrific day the other day in Gauteng.
Yeah, 4 winners on Tuesday. He's riding at the top of his game. He's always, a top jockey to follow. He's full value for everything that he does. But he was up the top draw on Tuesday. He just had them absolutely wrapped at Turpentine. So in that type of form, he's a man that you've got to respect on just about everything he's riding. I'm glad you started with number 1, Super Agra, Sheldon, because even though he hasn't won for a long time, he's very much in the firing line here. I loved his last run behind Smith and Wesson when he was staying on strongly. He's got less to beat according to the drop in class from an MR96. He's now on an MR82. Fine, he's got a lot of weight to carry, but I don't want to be cliche, but in sprints, you tend to be able to give weight, but not start. So hopefully he's a little bit more alert coming out of the stalls. And if he's right there going through the final 400 meters, he's one of those who will have a say. For Captain Dizzy, now I'm on the verge of thinking maybe the handicap has got to him. But his husband was out the top draw when beating Axel Collins because he was very, very strong on the early stages and still powered away in good style. I don't know if we can read anything into the fact that Chase Morgan rides Captain Dizzy, not Super Agra, because of Muzieni and Corey Lensley's distant ties back to Flamingo Park days. So you'll probably find that Muzi was teed up for Super Agra and it was just lucky for Chase that Captain Dizzy's in the same race. So it's not like he's missing out on a potential winning ride. 5 Pinch Hit keeps me interested because there was a lot of talk for him last week. He ran okay behind Black Egret. There's no reason why he can't back that up because one angle that we have seen on the half pulse after all the rain is that fit horses that have had recent runs, tend to come out and back those runs up just on the back of those performances. So from that line of thinking, number 5, Pinchet, has a say. Both Johan Janssen van Vuren's horses, 8 Pontiac and 9 Silent War, make appeal, as do both of Tony Peters' horse. Interesting that Ennis Schwarz rides number 10, Sir Yaverman, and not number 12, Storm Dictator. So I'd love to know what the thinking is there because I prefer Storm Dictator over Sir Yaverman, but obviously, Dennis has elected for number 10 on the card. So that's an interesting dynamic. If pushed for a top choice in this race, Sheldon, I'm going to go with number 9, Silent War. If this distance is not a little bit too short for him, because of the way he ran on really strongly in his local debut over 1,100 meters, I think another 100 meters, he just about wins that race. I think he'll be better for that run, but it's a race that you don't want to be too confident in.
Well, how's about we take some swingers and exactors with number 1, Super Agra, and your selection, number 9, Silent War, because I like a little bit of Super Agra, and Silent War is my second selection. So maybe for the punters out there, we take some swingers, exactors, and both of these runners in the quartet.
Absolutely, Sheldon, because like I said at the top of this race, I think number 1, Super Agra, is a lively chance. I like his chances, so I wouldn't put anyone off those exactors and swingers. In fact, they're quite appetizing.
Super, let's move into the next race, and unfortunately it doesn't get any easier, as the betting says number 7, Mia Furia, at 33-10. Number 3, Blue Waters, is around 4-1, and then we go out to number 12, Power Ranger, at 6-1. Starting off with number 7, who is the current 33-10 favourite, just coming off a maiden victory. What did you make of that win?
Workmanlike. It looks probably a little bit easier than the margin suggested. And what is nice is that Spirit Princess came out and franked the form in pretty good style subsequently. This race has got me in an absolute spin, if I'm honest, Sheldon, because number 7, Mia Fiore, being the favourite, is something that I can accept and understand, but I'm also not going to get stuck into the price about number 7, Mia Fiore. I think that the bottom weights could be the horses to focus on, numbers 11 and 12. I know Power Ranger is on the scrap heap, but I'm going to pull him off the scrap heap for this race for one reason and one reason only. It's going to sound absolutely ridiculous what I'm going to tell you, that last time from draw 1 on the classic track around the turn, that was his worst result because he raced far too close to the pace by default, not by any fault of Muziani. He come out of draw 1 and you end up in the box seat. He hates the box seat. He wants to be run off his feet. And down the straight, he might very well be run off his feet. So I'm going to give him, and I hope that he doesn't come back next time and I end up falling for him again. But I'm going to give him one last chance, number 12, Power Ranger. This could be the now or never moment off bottom weight down the straight where he can just go in a straight line. They can run him off his feet and he can do his best work late. I think number 11, Black Lightning, is a player as well. He's a horse that I've always had respect for. When he won his maiden, he beat Puerto Plata, who's still a maiden. He's certainly not as good as his brother. But there were a few horses in behind who have come out and won. Then, of course, he followed up, ran 6.5 lengths to Son of Brage when going off at similar weight terms. I don't think he stayed 2,000 metres at his penultimate start. I think off a light weight, number 11, Black Lightning, is alive. He's just got to show that he can go down the straight of the Vaal, because that is my one big worry about him. I don't know if he's quite got the running style to be effective down the straight, but on the other side of the coin, Fabian Habib does get his horses to perform down the straight. There are quite a few of them that they grow an extra leg down the straight of the Vaal. So I'm going to hang my hat on number 11 and 12 being the two to follow in a very, very open race.
2 races left to negotiate, and at this stage of the game you might be pulling your hair out, and if you are in front by any stretch of the imagination, just keep going and keep putting those pieces in the puzzle, because this is one heck of a puzzle to put together on the entire card. And when looking at race number 8 over the 1,600 meter trip, we've been going on and on about how difficult these races are, and the longest price runner in the race at 33-1. The name is Ballon number 7 from the Boerters and Vosloo stable. I see Samanga Kamalo is booked to ride this, a horse with a whole heap of problems. But when you look at the merit rating, it's come right down to 61. And at 33-1, could you throw this into the pick 6? I'm definitely going to throw this horse into the pick 6.
My worry, Sheldon, with Ballon d'Or is the Vaal. On the turf and scene inside track, he's a completely different beast. But at the Vaal, he just struggles. So not today, but if he does have his next start on the inside track, hopefully with his rating drops a little bit more, then I'll be taking as much 33-1 as I possibly can. Because I also don't think he's that far away, but I'm just not convinced it'll be on Thursday. There are 2 core specialists here. Numbers 1 and 3 were Wakas and Iron Tail. Iron Tail's 1 from 1 down the Vaal straight, and Wakas is at 24 starts for 2 wins and endless places. Those are the 2 horses that I think could end up being the value in the race. I'm not saying that the winner's going to come from one of them, because there are a few in here that you've got to respect. I think down the weights, the horse like number 13, Fashion Nada's got to be a contender. I think number 9, Follow My Path, coming back down to 1,600 meters, also can't be too far away. 10, Maboneng stands out as a runner, as does number 8, Funky Music. But I think the value in this race lies between 1 and 3. So my suggestion in this race is to have both of them in your pick 6, and obviously a few others. But in the quartet, Roving Bankers 1 and 3 by the field. And who knows, maybe a Ballon d'Or at 33-1 can run into the first 4.
Then let's move on to race number 9, and this will be either the deal breaker, or you're going to seal the deal in race number 9 if you are standing in the exotics, and I'm afraid it doesn't get much easier. Although if you look at the betting, they do have number 1 Napoleon as the 5-2 favorite. Comes with some very inspiring form. 3rd to Bloomington, 2nd to Bob's Your Uncle, and then 4th last time out, despite stumbling and overreaching behind Vesuvio. And that form line has been franked. So number 1 Napoleon, I suppose a horse as good a chance as any.
Yeah, he's the horse to beat here, Sheldon, number 1 Napoleon. I know he's got to give weights away, but he gets Pierce Stratham on board. Valid excuses last time. The penultimate start to Bob's Your Uncle for this level is a very useful piece of form, because there were horses in and around the winner on that occasion who have held that form. So I think number 1 Napoleon is the horse they all need to beat. Winning doesn't come easily. It's been 456 days in the past one, but it looks like he's winding towards the peak on the half-halt. And I think that he's a good top 3, a good based accumulator, potential banker, unless it's something else that you like. There are 2 of my favourites in here that I am going to give a shout out to, and I do have respect for. Number 2, Sage King's drawn towards the inside. This will be his first foray down the Vaal Mile Straight. I think he'll handle it. I've spoken to James Crawford about Sage King quite a lot in the past, and he's always maintained that when this horse goes a mile in Joburg, you'll see the best of him. The Crawford yarn in Joburg is absolutely firing, but I'm going to give him a vote of confidence. And then one of our favourites as well, who's done us a few good turns despite not winning, but when he ran 3rd on the 2nd of March at 16-1 behind Robert Burns, number 10 Eagle Alley was one of those horses that just was done so many favours by the handicapper after a long list of indifferent runs. Another pound's been shaved off from Siandra Sosibo, tends to get something out of the son of Silvano, so I think that he'll be in the first 4.
Excellent. I like the way you touched on number 10, Eagle Alley, because these are the horses that I look for when they drop down in the ratings from a 93. You mentioned the extra weight off the back is racing off a 60. Hasn't won for 891 days. But when you look at the card that's midweek at Greyville on the Poly, you'll see one of the races, there's I think about 6 or 7 horses who haven't won for up to 1,400 days. That horse Just for the Pennies running I think on Wednesday, hasn't won for 1,400 days, and he's favourite. So a horse like Eagle Alley, 891 days. One of these days these soldiers are going to bounce back into the winner's enclosure.
And at least he's showing signs of life, much like Just for the Penny. Both those horses are showing signs of life. A win can't be too far away. It's not like they're running inconsistently. They're banging at the door now.
Right, so summarizing things, thanks very much for being on the line, and let's hope that the horses play ball and they run according to their form. But as we said at the top of the preview, it's one of those meetings where the pick 6 could certainly be a carryover, and then we're going to go on to your suggested best bet. And I think you've gone the safe route, and I'd go exactly the same way. So let's go on to Alistair Cohen's best bet, and that's race 5, number 1, Sword of Mercy. You live by the sword and you die by the sword. So race 5, number 1, Sword of Mercy. Alistair, that's your best bet of the day, and hopefully it comes through. Thanks very much for being on the line, Alistair.
Thanks, Sheldon. Always a pleasure. Great catching up, and looking forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Excellent. We'll see Alistair Cohen on Saturday. Looking forward to all the feature races. But as far as the Vaal card goes, best of luck, and may the horses do it for you on the race course.